So Draco, tell me a little bit about Vida. Why did you choose the title Vida? What is Vida?
Well, I mean, first of all, the idea of even doing this record is for the reason I'm ill. I was ill. I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, so that's cancer, and as I was in the middle of these treatments, the different protocols, they weren't successful. I went alternative and then some traditional, like just trying to find ways to avoid chemotherapy. So while I'm doing all this, there's this idea that maybe we should do this album because I have close ties from previous projects with Juan Luis Guerra and Ruben. We did a nice special back in the day, and then of course my friendships with several different artists over the years. This idea is like, hey, maybe we should do a concert. So I said, well, let's do a concert. We did a concert with Ruben and Juan Luis, and that was amazing. And by that time, we had those songs recorded, like a duets they had recorded with one of my songs, Esto es Vida with Juan Luis Guerra, and El Tiempo Va with Ruben Blades. And then I had conversations with Ricky Martin, and then we got in touch with Mark Anthony, and then a friend of mine said, hey, why don't you do it with Romeo Santos? And, it's strange, I don't think a lot of this would have happened had I been well. This is one of the things you want to, maybe it's your last swan song, you're like, why not get together these contemporaries, maybe they'll be down to do this, So it was a surprise to hear that Romeo was like, yeah, I'd love to do it, and what great track on the album, Reza por me, and then I met up with Bumburi personally, I had lunch, and he's on board, and so on and so forth. We just kept, and some songs, because they're linked to my past, whether it's Jose Feliciano and doing Light My Fire back in the day, and introducing me to, the Doors, and I became, a huge fan of the Doors, and then, you stumble upon certain books because of that, whether it's some of the French poets, and so on and so forth. So there's a link there with, music and the people that are there. My hometown, Ponce, where my parents lived off the Caribbean Sea in the south side of Puerto Rico. Ednita Nazario, that's on the album, she's from there, and so I've known her since I was 13. And then there's the other extreme. It's like, well, such great artists, such, famous artists, it would be nice to invite someone that's not as famous, but that's also very interesting singer-songwriter. So that's where Mima comes into the picture, where a lot of people don't know her. So I thought, well, this is interesting too, to bring someone that she's not known around the world, like say maybe a Shakira, but she's interesting, So I'm happy that she's on the album too. So this is just one of those things that happened naturally. And then finally, when it was mixed and mastered, I went into the stem cell transplant, which was luckily what really set me over to a healthier path.
Well, I actually heard your album. I listened to it actually last night, and I loved it.
Fantastic.
I love every song of it. It was very deep, and you could actually feel the soul, the pain, what you were going through, in that difficult time. So I could relate. It was very touching. So I really loved it.
I'm glad you listened to it. That's awesome.
Yes, I loved it. I really did. And I was, as I was listening to the songs, each song had a different feel to it, a different meaning. Can you talk a little bit about which song would you relate to the most from the album? Which song is your favorite? Not favorite per se, but closest to you.
Well, I mean, I love working on the entire album, obviously, for many reasons, because of the artists that are involved and the chance to revisit some of the tracks. I was able to use some pieces of previous recordings and then actually re-record a bunch of them. And that was a lot of fun. But when we talk about moments that were moving, well, I have to mention, there's, Esto es Vida with Juan Luis.
My favorite from the album, actually.
A beautiful piece. And then El Tiempo Va, because El Tiempo Va is a very serious piece, and no one could have done that piece except Ruben Blades, I was happy that was made possible. And if you listen to my original recording of that song, I sang it a certain way. But having the chance to have Ruben Blades, such an amazing voice, comes on, into my studio, and I hear his voice, I go, wow. It really pushed me to find myself even as a singer, because my whole thing's been all about vibe and I always wanted to sort of be in a band, you know. And even though I'm sort of doing my own thing, I love having great musicians. I strive, take pride in always having just the best of the best and players. I really enjoy what happens in the studio, and I found myself sort of inspired, forced to do a better job at singing on that song because it meant so much. And I thought, well, you know, if I could sing my last breath, how would I sing it? And I you know, and that's that song, the Tiempo Va. You know, my parts there were, you know, I don't know, I just like, you know, holding on to dear life. And so, but then there's fun pieces that I was very happy to be a part of for other reasons that are very personal, like with Teo Calderon, having him on there, you know, pieces like that. And I talked to you about Mima having her on Noche Fria. It was just awesome. But the list goes on, you know, and surprises for me, like the Romeo Santos songs on Reza por mí, you know, it's just like, I mean, I would think that we're so far. I mean, I'm not too one to defend a genre, but, you know, we are far from each other. You know, he does bachata, and I don't know what I do, but I do some kind of mix of, you know, a lot of things. And you know, has somebody told me, oh, if I were healthy and somebody said you should do something with Romeo, I'd be like, oh, I don't know. I mean, you know, I'd probably doubt that could work, but when you're just on maybe your last Swan song, you're like, sure, let's try it. And I was pleasantly surprised. You know.
Well, I actually like the song Masi Masi with Ricky Martin. How's that been for you working with him and shooting a video with him?
Well, it's fantastic. You know, we had a great run in Menudo, and for us to get back together again and do everything from, you know, La Vida Loca and the Vuelve album and, you know, to have that whole run and be a part of history and Latin music, that was fantastic. And then, you know, we had some quiet period of 9 years. To get back together again, we, you know, in Grande, it was fun. You know, we went to New York, filmed the video, and even though the video, you know, there's a lot of like this, you know, suave vibe going on, behind the scenes was just joke city and like being silly, so it was awesome. And then we went to Primero Nuestro, had another great time, so it was really nice hooking up, and I thought it was important that the first single be with Ricky. I thought it was a great idea. Sony recommended, you know, why not? I mean, the history's there, you guys, you know. It's the duet, you know, that a lot of folks wanted to hear us together and see us together. So it was great. I thought it was a sort of, you know, an awesome choice.
Yeah, definitely. You could totally tell the vibe is there and great chemistry. And
yeah, you know, I mean, it just, yeah, it's like old school, you know, it just happens. Once we were there in front of the camera, it was like, you know, it's like, you know, like all the time, it's just like, yeah, this is it, you know. So it was good. It was fun, you know, so that was pretty cool.
That's great. Well, now a little bit to switch the subject. Like you said, you had cancer, and that's been a battle for you, and you overcame it. You fought with cancer, and you won. Basically, you're healthy and ready to, you know, move to the next chapter of your life. How hard has been for you to live with cancer, and how supportive has your family and friends and fans?
Yeah, you know, cancer is tricky because you go from, you don't say why me, but you may say why now, you know, or you go through, you know, desperately. For me, I wanted to avoid chemotherapy, so I wanted to avoid anything that was part of the sort of allopathic, you know, traditional scene. I said, well, you know, I want to go alternative, so I did everything I could. I dropped everything in my life and started, I devoured several books. I went to some conferences. I did the best I could. I did good job, actually, you know, when it comes to nutrition and food, you know, there's scientific evidence and there's proof that, you know, certain things you eat do certain things to your body on a molecular level. And when you realize that, well, and you pay attention to that, then there's certain foods that they heal you. Now, obviously, I am here because of a combination of, you know, this. We integrated, you know, both the alternative and the traditional. And I think that's what pulled me through. The reality is, you know, I started completely natural. I was able to at least free my body from the toxins that I was obviously carrying from, you know, lifestyle, you know, booze, whatever, you know, excessive, you know, everything, you know. And then I found myself with the other reality that my body needed the nutrients. So I started really paying attention with a nutritionist friend of mine that I met along the way too. And then I went over to Texas to a treatment that was combinating certain medicines with natural medicine. And that helped me too, but that was very expensive. That was at the Brzezinski Clinic. Very, very expensive, to the point where I couldn't afford it anymore, because it was just because it was out of pocket and the system's set up in a unique way. And so once I realized that I couldn't do that, I go to Puerto Rico to think. I go up to the mountains, and this great mystery of life and the magic that it truly is when you have your heart open to something like life. I stumbled upon these few doctors that are practicing something that I happened to be reading, which was high dose vitamin C, high dose sodium ascorbate, and high dose sodium bicarbonate. I realized that they were doing great things. They were going straight into the tumors with this and having lots of success. So I started doing that with the food, with a little medicine. And in the end, I had to go back home. I had to go to Los Angeles. My family was there. And so I was able to get rid of 2 tumors. I had 3 in the abdomen. 2 disappeared. And the last one, which was just the tough, sort of like, I guess, the mothership of tumors. It was one of those things where I had to decide, listen, what do we still stay steady? So I entered into this program February of 2011 of chemo. I've tried to stay away from it as much as I could. But it was so stubborn that, you do one protocol and it would fail, another protocol it would fail, another protocol it would fail. So the doctors were always like, well, give us some time, we're trying to figure this out. And I guess I eventually, by this time we had recorded the record, and, I had the protocols failing, and, so I was a little bummed out about it, but I had a lot of faith, even beyond life itself. I had reached a point where I was like, I was okay. It's not that I was accepting death or accepting. I was just okay with, the outcome was what needed to be, and I was still content with, I had a good energy about whatever outcome. Once the outcome, it's cool. It's meant to be. And great things started happening, which was, the idea, doctor recommended I go yet to another specialized group of doctors. So I moved around to my 4th and last place to do this stem cell replacement. And I was able to use my own stem cell. So all that happened, and we're here.
So what changes are you hoping to make now that you're ready to move forward and take over the world, basically?
I mean, the changes are to, embrace life at its fullest as best I can, to enjoy it, to, pursue passions, intensely, and celebrate love, really. I mean, that's kind of it. It's the celebration of love.
And is Draco Rosa vagabundo?
Of course.
Still?
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, because, at the end of the day, what hasn't changed is your taste for art and sonic, these landscapes that I so adore. I mean, I'm always going to be more Edgar Allan Poe than, Neruda. It's just the way it is, that part of it. And it's okay, that's who I am. And I've been, another thing, I come out, woke up out of the bed realizing and accepting I'm that guy, and I love that guy.
Anything you want to say to our extra readers?
Yes. Hi. Yeah, I just want to, for the folks that do know me and that were close, and we were connected on Twitter and the late nights at the hospital, and for a couple of people that were also in hospital dealing with their illness, and we stayed in touch. I just want to send my love and my best wishes and my deepest gratitude for the folks that we stayed strong together in the late hours, so thanks.
Thank you, Draco, for the interview, and I wish you best of luck with Vida and anything else you want to do.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
You're a great artist, so I have no doubts you'll make it bigger than you have so far.
Oh, generous of you. All right, thank you.